I slept with my best friend's hot mom. My name's Jake, and this story still feels surreal when I think about it. It all started with my best friend, Mike. Mike and I had been inseparable since middle school. You know the type of friendship where you could finish each other's sentences? That was us. We grew up on the same block, played ball together after school, and even pulled each other through some rough times. If there's anyone I'd call a brother, it'd be Mike. Mike's mom, Linda, was always part of the picture, too. She was one of those moms who felt more like a cool older sister, easy to talk to, always cracking jokes, and hosting backyard barbecues that felt like half the neighborhood showed up to. Linda was in her early 40s, I think, but she looked younger. She had this way of carrying herself, confident and full of life. When we were younger, I saw her as just Mike's mom, but as I got older, I couldn't help but notice how she'd catch people's attention when she walked into a room. She was, for lack of a better word, stunning. To be clear, I never thought about her in that way back then. She was Linda, the woman who made the best lasagna in the world and once patched up my scraped knee when I wiped out on Mike's bike. I respected her and saw her as an extension of my own family. The thing is, my family wasn't all that tight-knit. My parents divorced when I was 10, and my mom worked long hours to make ends meet. I spent more time at Mike's house than my own. Linda became kind of a mother figure for me, always asking about school, making sure I had enough to eat, and giving advice when I needed it. It's not an exaggeration to say she helped shape me into the person I am today. Fast forward to now, and Mike and I are both 25. We've taken different paths but stay close. He works construction and recently got engaged to his girlfriend, Rachel. I've been trying to figure out my own career, bouncing between jobs while chasing a vague dream of making it big in the music industry. Life's been a little chaotic, and I guess I've been feeling stuck lately, like I'm on the outside looking in while everyone else moves forward. It was during one of those stretches when I found myself crossing paths with Linda again. Not just at a barbecue or casual hangout at Mike's place, but in a way I never expected. And that's where this story really begins. It was a Friday night, and I was dragging myself out to grab some groceries. The day had been a wash. Another round of sending out resumes with no callbacks, and no progress on my music projects. The store was quieter than usual, and I was wandering the aisles aimlessly, trying to decide between frozen pizza or something vaguely healthy. That's when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Jake? Is that you?" I turned around and there was Linda, holding a basket full of produce and looking as radiant as ever. She had her hair tied back and was wearing a casual denim jacket, but she still managed to look like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Her smile was warm, and for a second, I forgot how lousy my day had been. "Linda! Hey! Long time no see," I said, trying to sound casual. I hadn't seen her in a while, not since Mike's last family get-together months ago. "It's been forever," she said, setting her basket down to give me a quick hug. "How have you been? Still making music?" I laughed awkwardly. "Trying to. Not much to show for it, though. What about you? How's life?" "Busy, as usual," she said with a small shrug. "Mike's keeping me updated on his wedding plans, and work's been crazy, but I'm managing." "What brings you here?" "Oh, just grabbing a few things. You know, living the glamorous life of a bachelor," I joked, holding up the frozen pizza I had finally picked. She chuckled. "Well, if you ever need a real meal, you know where to find me." We ended up chatting for a bit longer, catching up on life and reminiscing about old times. It felt easy, like no time had passed at all. She mentioned that she'd just moved into a new house across town and invited me to stop by sometime. "It'd be nice to catch up properly," she said with a smile. As I walked out of the store that night, I couldn't help but feel a little lighter. Seeing Linda had been a surprise, but a good one. I didn't think much of it at the time, but that chance meeting was about to set a whole new series of events in motion. A few days later, I decided to take Linda up on her offer and stop by her new place. I texted her beforehand to make sure she was free, and she responded quickly with her address and a cheerful, "Can't wait to see you." I wasn't sure why, but her enthusiasm made me feel good, like maybe someone out there was rooting for me, even when I wasn't doing so great myself. Her house was cozy and beautifully decorated, a mix of modern touches and warm, homey details. She greeted me at the door with a hug and invited me inside. The smell of something delicious wafted from the kitchen. "You're just in time. I made pasta," she said, leading me to the dining table already set for two. "Wow, you really didn't have to go all out," I said, feeling a little overwhelmed by the effort she'd put in. "Nonsense. It's just nice to have some company," she replied with a warm smile. "Besides, you've had enough frozen pizzas to last a lifetime, haven't you?" We laughed and sat down to eat. The conversation flowed easily, just like it had at the store. We talked about everything: her work, my struggles with music, Mike's wedding plans. She listened intently, offering advice and encouragement without ever sounding patronizing. It was nice. Comforting, even. After dinner, we moved to the living room with a couple of glasses of wine. The atmosphere shifted slightly, becoming more relaxed and intimate. Linda kicked off her shoes and tucked her feet up on the couch, and I found myself mirroring her, feeling more at ease than I had in weeks. "You know, Jake," she said after a moment of comfortable silence, "you're too hard on yourself. You've always been so talented. It's just a matter of time before things fall into place." "I don't know about that," I replied, swirling the wine in my glass. "Lately, it feels like I'm running in circles, getting nowhere." She reached out and placed a hand on mine. "You're going to be fine, Jake. I know it." Her touch lingered for a moment, and when our eyes met, there was something unspoken in the air, a tension I hadn't felt before. I wasn't sure what to do with it, but I didn't pull away. The next thing I knew, Linda leaned in, her lips brushing against mine, soft and tentative at first. My heart raced as I kissed her back, the rest of the world fading away. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were tangled together on the couch. It was passionate, intense, and nothing like I'd ever experienced before. There was no hesitation, no second guessing in that moment. Everything else, the complications, the guilt, the consequences, faded into the background as we gave in to the pull between us. Afterward, we lay there in silence, the weight of what had just happened slowly settling over us. Linda rested her head on my chest, and I could feel her breathing slow and steady. I didn't know what to say, and for a while, neither did she. Finally, she broke the silence. "Jake, I don't know what to say." "Me neither," I admitted. "But I know this felt right. At least in the moment." She sighed softly. "It did. But this changes everything." I nodded, knowing she was right. The reality of the situation was starting to hit me, but I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Not yet. All I knew was that I'd crossed a line I could never uncross, and there was no telling where it would lead from here. The morning after that night with Linda, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. The events of the evening before were playing over and over in my mind, and I couldn't shake the mixture of emotions: excitement, guilt, and the gnawing fear of what would happen if Mike ever found out. Linda had left the bed earlier and was in the kitchen when I got up. The smell of coffee filled the air, and for a moment, it felt oddly domestic, like waking up next to someone you'd been with for years. When I stepped into the kitchen, she greeted me with a small, almost nervous smile. "Morning," she said softly, sliding a mug of coffee across the counter to me. "Morning," I replied, taking it and trying to think of what to say. The weight of the situation felt heavier in the daylight. I wasn't sure if you'd want breakfast, she said, fidgeting with her mug. But I can make something if you're hungry. I shook my head. No, I'm good. Thanks. An awkward silence settled between us for a moment, both of us clearly trying to figure out how to navigate this new reality. Finally, Linda broke the silence. Jake, about last night. I don't regret it, but I know this is complicated. Really complicated. I nodded, swallowing hard. Yeah. I don't regret it either, but... Mike. What if he finds out? Her expression grew somber. He can't. Jake, he can't ever know about this. I know, I said quickly. I'd never tell him. But it's still hard being around him, knowing this. Linda reached across the counter and took my hand. We'll figure it out. We just have to be careful. But Jake, I don't want this to be the end. Her words caught me off guard. Part of me had assumed this would be a one-time thing, a mistake we'd agree to move past. But hearing her say that she wanted to continue left me conflicted. I cared about Linda more than I ever expected to, but the risks were enormous. I don't either, I admitted after a long pause. But we have to be careful. For Mike's sake. She nodded. Of course. Always. From that point on, things were different. Linda and I kept seeing each other, always in secret. We were careful to keep our interactions around Mike completely normal, and thankfully, he didn't seem to suspect a thing. But every time we were alone, the connection between us grew stronger. It wasn't just physical. There was an emotional depth I hadn't expected. Still, the guilt never entirely went away. Every time I saw Mike, it was there, a constant reminder of the line I'd crossed. I knew that if he ever found out, it would destroy our friendship and possibly his relationship with his mom. But I couldn't bring myself to stop. Linda had become too important to me, and for better or worse, I was in too deep to walk away. I'm still not sure how to feel about everything that happened. Life doesn't give you clean, easy answers, and this situation was anything but simple. What I do know is that Linda changed something in me. She gave me a kind of understanding and support I hadn't realized I was missing. For better or worse, she became a part of my story, a chapter I'll never forget. I know some people would call it a mistake. Maybe it was. But for me, it was also real. It was complicated and messy, but it was mine. If I've learned anything, it's that life doesn't always fit into neat little boxes. Sometimes, it's about finding meaning in the chaos and holding on to the moments that make you feel alive, even if they come at a cost.